Okay, thank you, Sophie Ross. That was so silly and fun, and I look forward to that every week, and I hope you guys do too. Now, here's your chance. If you want to turn this off right now, it's okay. If you have not seen The White Lotus that streamed its season 3 finale episode Sunday night, leave now. But if you want to stay, if you've seen it and you want to talk about it for just a brief amount of time, let's do it. Now this is fresh, so I'm probably gonna have a lot more feelings about it this next week, and I'll probably watch it again. And I think this is why I love television. I, first and foremost, what I will say is, if you don't respond to this show, if you don't respond to any show, that's fine. It doesn't make you good. It doesn't make you bad. That's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to make you feel something. And I always say run towards something that makes you feel anything, because that's the whole point, right? Run towards that feeling. Now, sometimes art can be challenging. Sometimes TV shows, music, books, plays, they can be challenging. And you've got to decipher what is something that you don't like or what is something that is just making you feel uncomfortable. And in the end, you're going to be better for it, sitting with it, thinking about it. And so I thought this was a damn near, I'm not going to say perfect, but a fantastic season of The White Lotus. The White Lotus and Mike White, the creator, director, writer, producer, and I don't know, maybe he did craft service and cooked all the food for everybody. He gave himself a hard task because this show started so much more comedic than it has turned into. And I think there is room for both. I think that's what life is. Life can sometimes be funny, mixed with tragedy. Sometimes it can just be straight tragedy. And this is the darkest season of The White Lotus that we've had since its inception. And I think this show has earned it. This was an hour and a half. I mean, it had its comedic moments, but man, it was dark. God, that last 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, you were on the edge of your seat. And I think this, for it being at the pace that it was all season, I think it earned that pace, in my humble opinion. Now, what I had told you, or what I even told the Patreon, and I talked about this, was, ever since last week, I thought Rick was going to die. I thought Rick was the guy played by Walton Goggins. I thought he was going to die. And I even said in one of the episodes last week, I think it's because he threatened the guy that he thinks killed his father. I also said that dude is Rick's father. But I said, that guy, if he goes in and threatens that guy at that guy's home, he owns the White Lotus with his wife, Sritala, that he's going to come back to the White Lotus and there's going to be hell to pay. Now, I didn't think Chelsea was going to die. Now, as the week progressed, and especially today, I thought, actually, maybe she will die because that will teach Walton Goggins' character some kind of cosmic lesson, which Chelsea was trying to teach Rick lessons and trying to teach everybody lessons about life and love. And she was a character that seemed, even through astrology, she just seemed to know how the world worked. But at the same time, she was madly in love with Rick. She said, this guy is my soulmate. Walton Goggins is my soulmate. So it was crushing that Chelsea got shot and then Rick got shot. Two of the bodyguards got shot. And the red herring, which I knew this would be a red herring. I just didn't think that they would take it this far, was that Lachlan drinking the poison, and they really made it seem like he was dead. He even had a moment where he thinks he saw God. He's in the water, in his mind. He's dead. He's dying. We see him die. His father, Jason Isaacs, comes out and finds him. And then after the Walton Goggins death, we see a close-up of an eye opening, and that is Lachlan. So Lachlan was able to escape. And so this had everything for me. There was dark comedy. There was tragedy. I mean, this was like a Greek tragedy in so many ways. Not Oedipal, thank God, even though we had two brothers, doing weird things to each other. It breaks your heart. Like, I did the Patreon today, and I read this Hollywood Reporter article where one of the actors said, people are going to hate Mike White. And that's when I kind of was putting it together. The person that I think would most upset people to pass away is Chelsea, because she was such a good-hearted person. But in this episode, I think they even explained it even more, where she reconfirmed that Rick was her soulmates and that they were two hearts and that they would always be together, and in death, they will always be together. They died side by side. but it's tragic, it's sad, it's all of those things. Now that's like the main driving action, right? But then there were so many other beautiful scenes that were about life, that were about relationships, and we had so many different storylines. Like, so Belinda, you guys, Belinda's son, by the way, Belinda's son kind of got on my nerves a little bit. Also, I was like, what kind of son encourages their mom to throw themselves into danger for a financial reward? I mean, Belinda ends up getting the financial reward of $5 million, dollars, but you don't want to cross that dude. You don't want to cross the guy that was involved in Jennifer Coolidge's death. You don't want to cross that dude, but she ended up $5 million richer. And she pulled a Tanya where she told the dude that she was having flirties with, not even flirties, I think they did the hippity dippity. She was like, sorry, my plans have changed. I'm leaving Thailand, and she was like, let me be rich for a goddamn second. And it was funny and comedic, and I'm sure we'll see Belinda again in some form in another season of The White Lotus. But that's a scene that Tanya did on the first season of The White Lotus, I believe, when she was like, peace out in Hawaii. So I thought that was kind of a funny comedic sense. But this episode, even though I had my theories, it really did keep you guessing the whole way through. Now, Guy Talk, who was the guard, he has struggled with violence. He's a Buddhist. And that's a non-violent religion, which, by the way, all religions should be non-violent now that we're talking about it. But he struggled with that, right? And he was in love with Mook, who's, what's her name? Jenny from Blackpink. And she was kind of like, you could tell she wanted to be with somebody that I think in her was like kind of machismo and guts. And he has to shoot Rick at the end of this episode. And then you see at the very end, he is now the head of Sritala's security detail. He's got the girl now. Him and Mook are together from what you see very briefly. I was talking to texting with Sandra, and Sandra said they should put up title cards at the end of The White Lotus like they do on The Housewives. And I thought that was really brilliant. Could you imagine? Like Vicky Gunvalson now owns a second insurance company, but they would be like, Belinda, now $5 million richer, invested in Bitcoin, like something like that. I thought that would be hysterical. And we know Mike White loves The Housewives and Bravo TV. But I thought there were so many things at play. So let's go through some of the relationships that we saw on tonight's episode. But my God, overall, I just thought this was fantastic. I thought it stuck the landing. And if you didn't, that's okay. We're not at war on this. Just go towards what you like. But I think it's a mixture of my age. I'm getting older. I'm getting more thoughtful about things. And I just think these were amazing performances, amazing writing. And I'm sorry, Mike White's visual style from season 1 to season 3, my God, this dude is turning into a real director. I mean, the visualizations of the water and the crashing waves and the monkeys and the leaves. I mean, this whole thing was a vibe. This was a completely different experience in season 1 and season 2. And I can't wait to see where season 4 goes, right? But yeah, this was definitely a bloodbath. Now, remember, in the first episode of the season, we have Zion, who is Belinda's son. He's the one finding a body floating in the river when we hear gunshots. That's how the season started. We just didn't know who that body was. Now we find out that it was most likely Chelsea that he finds. But the whole season was this guessing game because Tim, the father, played by Jason Isaacs, the guy with the huge schlong, he obviously has committed some financial crimes. They've locked the family's phones and computers away so nobody can find it. And this dude has been having like suicidal fantasies all season long, even to the point where he is wanting to off his own family. And this show just pushes that boundary and goes right over that edge, is that the poison fruit, which they teased in the trailer, there's he's like, what are these fruits again? They're poison, and it's like the seeds are poisonous. So he takes a bunch of seeds, he smashes them up and puts it in the blender that his son was blending his protein powder shakes in. And then on the final night says, oh, it's our final night here. Let's make some slushies. Let's make some daiquiris, pina coladas. And he makes these pina coladas with the seeds in it to poison his entire family, his daughter, his 2 sons, Parker Posey. And you see Patrick Schwarzenegger's character take a sip, and he snaps to the dad, knocks it out of his hand. He's like, oh, the milk is gross. Don't drink that. Don't drink that. But he doesn't wash out the fucking blender container. And so then Lachlan, the next day, after being chastised by his brother, Patrick Schwarzenegger, saying, you have to be your own man one day, make your own shakes. But also Patrick Schwarzenegger still reeling from the fact that his brother, Lachlan, jacked him off during a threesome. This is why I always give a warning to Jesse Solomon. You got to be careful where you're headed, Jesse. You just never know. But, Patrick's going through this like shame. They were all wasted and this thing happened. And his brother says, his little brother Lachlan says, it's not, I'm a pleaser. I want everybody to be happy. You always want to get off. So I thought I was doing the right thing by you. He thought he was doing the right thing by his sister about supporting her in her endeavors in terms of going to that monastery for a year. He's a little lost as a kid, not knowing who he is or where he wants to go. So it's always easier just to agree with whoever he's around. But then the next day he makes his own shake and the stupid dad didn't wash it out. So he poisons himself. And that was their storyline. The ending of their storyline is they're all on the boat. And it's very different from the first shot of the Ratliff children where it was like, monkey see, monkey hear, monkey do kind of, right? And this time we have Patrick Schwarzenegger reading a book. We have the others staring ahead. They're like actually participating or look more alive than they ever have. Parker Posey, there's a brilliant shot that not a lot of people caught where she is literally taking off her rose-colored glasses. Like, that's really on the nose. I finally see you without my rose-colored glasses, because the father, they get their phones back and he's like, listen, life is going to change from here on out, but we can get through this together as a family. And I'm like, oh boy, because he wanted to kill his family except for his younger son, Lachlan, because he asked Lachlan earlier, I bet you, could you live without any money or any possessions? And he was like, yeah. And the dad was like, yeah, I bet you could. So he wasn't going to kill his youngest son. He was going to kill all the rest of them that he thought couldn't live without money. So we obviously don't have a conclusion on the Ratliff story, but we do know that life is going to change for them. I didn't need to know. I didn't need to have a spinoff to watch him go to trial and all this shit. I think there's this thing that we have, or I have in my head sometimes, of I want everything wrapped up in a nice bow. And that just doesn't happen. And that's not how good TV should happen anymore either. That's like for shit like NBC, CBS, ABC. We're prestige, baby. We pay for this service. We want a little bit more challenging of stories, and our minds can imagine that. So that was like a lot of that families, but my God, I mean, they played it brilliantly because it's such an insane storyline, right? So Rick comes back from almost killing who he thought killed his dad. He says goodbye to his pal, who is now on a when he came to Rick, and then Rick got him now drinking and drugging and sleeping with, adult, what are we, sex workers. I'm just like, Rick's like, peace out. I'm like, dude, you left your buddy Sam Rockwell like that? But he thinks he has now conquered what was keeping him back. He has conquered it. He had the choice to shoot this man he thought killed his father, but he chose not to. So he comes back to Chelsea, and it's a very sweet moment. And, they're like, oh, we're going to be together forever. And that's when you knew, like, oh no, something very, very bad is going to happen. Now, Guy Talk, the security guard, he realized that the Russians were the ones that that robbed him earlier in the season. And he saw them at the Muay Thai fight. And, the head guy that works at White Lotus came up to him and said, please don't say anything. Do not tell on us, please. I'll get deported. My friends will get deported. We have nothing. And they didn't really wrap this storyline up, but I don't think it needed to be wrapped up because Guy Talk obviously now is the head of security. And we see a small clip of the Russians partying with other females. And they're just going to keep doing their thing and probably keep getting into trouble year after year in that area, right? But Guy Talk, definitely knew it was them. So by the way, out there, did you guys all think, who did you think was going to pass away? Let us know on Spotify. I know you can leave specific comments there if you want to join in, because really, I mean, those were my thoughts, but it really could have gone so many different ways in my head. Okay, so back to Rick and Chelsea briefly. Remember that Jim Hollinger, who is the man that played by the brilliant actor Scott Glenn, man, I've seen so many amazing Scott Glenn performances, going all the way back to The Right Stuff. He's just a brilliant actor, and he deserves his due. He was really scary in this episode, but Jim Hollinger returns to the White Lotus with his wife, they own it, and confronts Rick and insults his mother and says his mom was a whore. You don't call no mom no whore. Are you kidding me, dude? And that his dad was a dirtbag. So I was like, shit, this guy isn't Rick's dad after all. But Rick, in this moment of like peace and calm before this situation, you thought everything was going to come up roses for Rick and Chelsea. And then this confrontation happens. And he also shows Rick that he's carrying a gun. Just like Britt Eady said on Real Housewives of Atlanta to Kenya that he showed he was packing. So Rick knows he has a gun. So, and he also has security guards around him. So Rick is like, he wants to like kill this dude because he just called his mom a whore. Chelsea's begging him not to do anything. Rick flees, and the bodyguards start to like try to find him. And all of a sudden, he tries to like go to the therapist that was like talking him about his anger issues earlier in the season. And she can't see him yet because she's talking to Belinda's son, which, by the way, man, he just needed you for a couple of minutes. You could have stopped this whole thing if you actually talked to your client. Belinda's son could have waited for 5 minutes. My God, he just got $5 million with his mom. But he's sitting there and all of a sudden sees that Jim and Sritala and the bodyguards, they're all in this one location. And he's taking a picture with the famous actress lady played by Michelle Monaghan. And so Rick, even though Chelsea's begging him not to, goes right up to the dad, goes right up to the Hollinger guy, goes into where the gun is, picks up the gun, and it's like, fuck you, and then shoots him, shoots Scott Glenn, kills him. And Sritala, he's like, he killed my father. And Sritala, her husband, that guy's wife says, dipshit, this is your dad. He told me you're his son. So it was his father after all. So he killed his dad. This is a Greek tragedy. But yeah, he couldn't tell him that he was his father, but in the end that killed him and that killed Rick, right? And then Rick is in a shootout with the bodyguards, and this is when Guy Talk has to step up and kill Rick, who's carrying Chelsea, who's already dead. They fall into the water, and it was just brutal, you guys. Just heart-wrenching, that scene, and it gave you all the feels, right? I thought it was dramatic, action-filled, sad, beautiful, darkly funny, just messed up. This Mike White, you are a sick man, my gentleman, and I mean that as a compliment. I mean, like, sick man that's a good thing. And then finally, I wanted to talk about the three females, the female friendships that were in this season. It was the three ladies. They were the lady friends. Jacqueline, played by Michelle Monaghan, Lori, played by Carrie Coon, and Katie, played by Leslie Bibb, who has also been married to Sam Rockwell, who is an actor in this as well. And remember, they are childhood friends that embarked on this girl's trip to Thailand. And Michelle Monaghan's character, Jacqueline, is a famous actor, and she paid for the entire trip. And you have seen the ups and downs of their friendship. You've seen when one leaves, they'll start talking shit about the other one. You see how they've changed in each other's eyes. Jacqueline, Michelle Monaghan's character, slept with the guy that worked at the White Lotus when they were encouraging Carrie Coon to hook up with him. And it seems like she had been this way her whole life. And Michelle Monaghan's character has a husband, but they barely hang out. And you just see all of the insecurity that probably, I don't want to just say women, because I think men have insecurity as well, but you see how they have insecurity through the world lens, but also through the lens of the friendship. But Carrie Coon, they all kind of end up having dinner together, and you can tell it's ending on a positive note. And Carrie Coon delivers a monologue that I just thought was so beautiful, so powerful, so well written, where I was like, oh my God, this has earned her an Emmy nomination. And my God, I think it might even win her an Emmy for this. And I couldn't find it, so I went back and watched it and I transcribed it. And so this might be a little off, but I want you to listen to this and think about this. And from what I was told, Carrie Coon had to shoot this her first day of filming. So the very end scene with these ladies, almost, she had to deliver this monologue on the first day of filming. That blows me away. So this is her monologue. She's talking to her two best girlfriends since childhood. She's talking about the trip, and she says, I just feel like my expectations were too high. I just feel like as you get older, you have to justify your life and your choices. And when I'm with you guys, it's so like transparent what my choices were and my mistakes. I have no belief system. I've had a lot of them, but work was my religion forever, but I definitely lost my belief there. then. And then I tried love, and that was just a painful religion and made everything worse. And then even for me, just being a mother, that didn't save me either. But I had this epiphany today. I don't need religion or God to give my life meaning because time gives it meaning. We started this life together. We are going through it apart, but we are still together. And I look at you guys and it feels meaningful. And I can't explain it. Even when we're sitting around the pool talking about whatever inane shit, it feels deep. And she goes on to say, like, to the actress, I'm glad you have a beautiful face. And she tells Leslie Bibb, I'm glad you have a beautiful life, a beautiful family. And I just thought, my God, that was such a beautiful monologue about life. And I think we all struggle to come up with some meaning in this life and what our belief system is. And sometimes we'll rack our brains trying to determine what we actually do believe in, because we do know we are looking to believe in something, right? But it's about finding the right thing to believe in. And you can have many different beliefs, and those beliefs can sometimes be so wrong that it just sends your heart crashing, your stomach crashing, your mind crashing, your bank account crashing, all of these things. And there's a frustration level to it. But then we have these things in life called friends. And even the friends that aren't with us, you still go through life with. You know, or even the people that we've lost, we still go through life with them. And I thought this was just beautiful because it doesn't really need words. It's just feeling. It's just vibes, like I always call Summer House, is that you can just be doing anything and it still feels meaningful. And to me, that is a great place to start in terms of belief system, is be around the people and be around the things that give your life meaning, that make it feel deep. And I think that's why I even do this little silly show. It gives my life meaning. You know, I feel like we can talk about bigger things than just what happened on Southern Charmer Summer House this week. I just thought this was so beautiful, and I thought she delivered it just note perfect. And this is why I geek out watching a show like this. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a very quick recap of tonight's episode, a season finale of The White Lotus. Where will Mike White go next? We don't know. I don't think he's going to go to Iceland. He says he wants to go somewhere sunny. They like to treat this like a vacation, but it's going to be a minute. They were supposed to start scouting locations this month, and I don't think they've started to do that yet. So it could be a minute. Let's hope it's not 2 years or 3 years like Severance did us. But hats off to Mike White. Thank you for making some great television. And we got so many other great shows out there right now. But let's pour one out for this season of The White Lotus. You stuck the landing. Awesome. Okay, guys, have a great Monday. We'll be back on Tuesday with an all-new, fantastic episode. Bye.